the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Oh, ready? Okay. What's up, my N-words? C-words, S-words, H-words, and fellow cartoons. Welcome to HBR News 143. Cathy Newman blown the fuck out. Hijab Hoax and New California. This is the show where your favorite badgers ferret out the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. Okay, well, maybe don't dance, but it'd be hard to listen to us critically while you're busting a move, but you should get excited.
It would not.
Just like
it would be perfect. Keep doing it. Everybody dance now. It would be rude not to.
No. I'm telling you right now, you guys do not want to see me dance.
Oh, I think we definitely do want to see.
No, I just want to hear it.
It's worse than I think.
I just want to hear what it sounds like.
I grew up in Ohio in the 1980s. You don't want to see me dance.
Wait, Mike, were you trying to say you want to hear Hannah dance? Is that what you're trying to?
Well, hey,
I dig rhythms, baby.
That is actually a possibility since every joint in my body pops like the Tin Woodsman.
It's astounding for the sight and the ears.
In the background, you can hear me going, oil can.
Well, anyways, I'm here. How does the lyric go? And I'm here to combine music and lyrics to make you shake your pants, take a chance, come on and dance. Guys, great. Okay, you get it. Anyways, you should get excited about the show today. Why? Well, because of our amazing panel. Today's HBR News panel consists of Dr. Randa McCam, Panda, long-ranged rhetorician, and the only British man alive that could turn Cathy Newman anti-feminist because of his massive cock. We also have Hannah Wallen, Pussycat Punisher and Punster, and most famous for once trying to eat a clock. She said it was very time-consuming. And I'm your host, Max Starrett, Simpsons kin, and definitely not Agumon from the TV show Digimon. Although I definitely am, as the show would say, digi-destined for your mom. Today we will be discussing the following topics. Much like Catalonia has tried to split from Spain and become its own nation, certain politicians are advocating for parts of California to split off from the state and create a new state. The name? Well, what else? New California. Because politicians lack originality. I personally advocate calling the New California New Springfield and turning it into a Simpsons-kin ethno-state. Just to piss off Richard Spencer.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
What do you mean too soon? It'd be great. And, okay, moving on. Worried about being falsely accused of rape, ladies and well, let me rephrase. Worried about being falsely accused of rape, gentlemen? There's an app for that. It's called Legal Fling, all one word, and it helps sexually active degenerates create legally binding contracts. These contracts allow both parties to agree or not agree to various sexual acts. Because, there's nothing sexier than presenting a potential partner with a document that says, "May I ask who your daddy is?" As I introduce the next topic, I have to ask my fellow panelists, did you watch Cathy Newman's interview with Jordan Peterson?
Yes, I'm working on the Codger version. It's taking a while.
Hannah?
I unfortunately did not.
Okay, so Mike, what you're saying is that you hate women.
So what you're saying is that I hate men, is what you're saying there, and we should just stop. Everyone should just stop what they're doing, is what you're saying.
So what you're saying is that you hate lobsters, right?
So what you're saying?
It was that bad, huh?
It's like she was doing it on purpose. Like,
did she ask him if her pants made her butt look fat?
No. He said, "I don't answer questions like that."
It's like a lot of people have taken the supercuts of her saying "so you're saying" because there's fucking loads of them. I'm taking the supercuts of what she said after that, and I'm cutting away the "so you're saying," and I'm putting all those together to construct, one straw man at a time, exactly the kind of straw beast she thinks she's fighting against, and It's basically a misogynist Calvinist who thinks the whole world should come to a stop because women are stupid.
She's like that little sibling that always repeats everything that you said back to you. But
Oh, no, see, I handled that, but that's because my younger sibling is a boy. So when he started doing that, then I waited until his friends were over and he started his repeating game and I said, "I'm a girl and I wear pink panties." He didn't live that down for like 2 weeks.
I would always, like when my sister did that, I would just say deoxyribonucleic acid, and she could repeat it back to me. Anyways, also, we're going to talk about how Canadian politicians virtue signaled over a hijab cutting hate crime that was confirmed to have never happened. But that didn't stop the worldwide progressive press from getting semis over the mere possibility that this story was true. Oh, and the U.S. government shut down for 3 days and nobody cared. And finally, our bonus story for the patron-only after show. Armageddon is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It appears that anime might actually become real life. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. Her name is Akari. She has green hair and dresses in skimpy outfits while standing still in a tube. At the moment, it seems Akari is the only option, so you can't customize your digital wife into a visual representation of your waifu. And don't tell me who your waifu is in the chat, because Dr. Random Cam will be banning you left and right per my directive. From what I understand, Hannah already told us before the show that the chat is already cancer, and I don't need it to become malignant. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fiction Max has created for this joke. I literally don't know how to ban people on YouTube. I've never done it. Not even in the comment sections.
You didn't have to tell him that, man. Come on.
We've only done it once anyway.
Let me live my power fantasy just for once, please. You're killing me, man. Okay, anyway. If you would like to participate in our after shows, either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a patron by going to www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Anyways, that's about it. Let's get on to the main stories. You guys had the links, right? We're all in the live show chat. Yeah, we're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to start off by reading about the new California Republic. This write-up comes to us via Mike J. Thank you very much, Mike. So this is really interesting. Robert Preston and Tom Reed are not very happy with the way things currently are in the state of California. Both, in case you guys don't know who they are, they're politicians. They specifically believe that years of, quote, overtaxation, regulation, and monoparty politics have made California ungovernable, which in turn has sparked a decline in essential basic services for most Californians. They cite low rankings in education, healthcare, and economic opportunities when compared to other states in the U.S. The proposed solution to the problem is to split California into two different states. More coastal counties such as Los Angeles, Monterey, and Sonoma would remain in the original California, while the more rural counties such as San Bernardino, Mariposa, and Modoc would become part of the new state of New California. A move like this isn't without precedence, actually. The state of West Virginia split off from Virginia in 1861, due in part to the American Civil War. It's an example that's roughly 150 years old, but it's still a relevant example. This also isn't the first time something like this has been tried. In early 2014, venture capitalist Tim Draper proposed splitting California into the states of Jefferson, North Carolina, Silicon Valley, Central California, West California, and South California, using much the same argument as Preston and Reed. Draper's efforts failed as he wasn't able to get enough signatures for the petition to make the ballot in 2016.
So what you're saying is you hate California. Did I do it right?
Yeah, my attitudes towards California are very much like that of Maynard James Keenan's from Tool, his attitudes towards California. If any of you ever listened to the song Anima, you know what I'm talking about. Because in it, he's just like, I want to see the entire thing come down. I want the fault lines to give way and all the psychos to essentially drown in Arizona Bay. You might think that's...
I can't imagine why you wouldn't welcome any change, my dear.
I know. I want to see it come down. Bring it down. Suck it down. Flush it down. Yeah. It's a great song, by the way. You should check it out. But yeah, look, when it comes to California, what is it? They have the largest debt burden currently out of all the states in the United States. I might be wrong about that, but I think they're at least one of the top 5. And this is a problem that's going to be spiraling out of control. Something has to be done. I don't know if this is the right example, but radical examples like this are bound to come up because nobody seems to be doing anything. Everybody just seems to be waiting for chaos to happen. And sooner or later, California is going to be to the U.S. like Greece was at one point to the European Union.
I don't know. California, if there's going to be a crazy idea that gets created in the United States that doesn't necessarily have to do with how to govern the United States, it's like anything else other than this is the way the country should be run, right? It's going to come out of California.
Yeah,
and it's just been that way, and it's probably always going to be that way. And as far as California splitting up into a bunch of pieces, there'll probably be a whole big controversy over this, and there will be a whole lot of people that are sure it's going to happen, and there will be an equal number of people that are sure it's not going to happen, and quite likely it's going to fizzle. This will be another fart in a skillet idea. But if it doesn't, and California splits into California and New California, it's not going to really necessarily solve the state's problems unless the state starts dealing with the actual causes of their problems. And the fact is that part of the causes are coming out of the urban areas where the folks that want to split off the rest of the state from the few big cities that are the most progressive, so to speak, that they want to put those off to the side. But it's I think a lot of the problem is that attitude is all over the entire state, and it's not going to fix anything to have two states that are separate from each other, that are connected, doing the same things as the one state did. All you're going to do is have most of the state's taxpayers, because I think the wealthy, most of the wealthy live in the area that they're splitting off from. Most of the state's taxpayers are going to be on the old California side of it, and New California will go bankrupt.
Yeah,
and one of the big problems that they have is being a sanctuary state. And there's a significant amount of crime because they don't differentiate between immigrants and invaders. And, that's not going to be solved. The crime levels are not going to be solved. The overtaxation is not going to be solved. The poor management of resources, not going to be solved. And again, because they've got like the majority of their actual taxpayers are not going to be in the new part of California, who's going to pay their bills?
Yeah. That's the thing. It seems but like I understand their plight, because fact of the matter is California definitely is a mono-party politics state. I can't imagine any scenario in the near future where it would ever switch from being a blue state to a red state. And for that reason, I can understand the plight of a lot of politicians that want to get spending under control, because it's absolutely insane in California. And like they said, a lot of the stuff that they're talking about is true. It's overly taxed down there. It's impossible to start a new business down there unless, I don't know, you have like millions of dollars saved up because you come from a wealthy family. Like it's almost impossible. Like I've been trying to get into the film industry and media and stuff like that, and I can't. The rules regarding internship in California, they're so strict. I mean, even if you're just doing an unpaid internship for somebody that does a radio show on YouTube, which is something that I tried to do, you can't do it because the government will come in and say, hey, you have to pay this guy minimum wage. Nobody can start up anything. And I'd love to be able to just go down there, get my foot in the door, and work as hard as I can to get a job, but it's impossible. And it's because of that overregulation that things are just going to continue to spiral way down. So, look, I know it's tough to consider, but I think one of the ultimate solutions that is going to have to be taken on at some point in the near future even though it's painful, is that they're just going to have to learn how to cut spending. And it's like, well, what about all the people that depend on social programs in order to survive? Well, the thing is, my argument is, well, if we don't do something right now, it's going to be a whole lot worse for those same people in the future. Now, Mike, I just wanted to say, some say that the end is near. Some say Armageddon will come soon. I certainly hope they will. I sure could use a vacation from this bullshit 3-ring circus sideshow. Don't you agree?
Hang on, I'm trying to think what the next line is.
Of freaks here in this hopeless
fucking home we call LA. The only way to fix it is to flush it all away. Any fucking time, any fucking day. Learn to swim and see you down in Arizona Bay.
Great fucking song. Guys, if you aren't into Tool, after you listen to Tool, nothing sounds as good. Seriously, just get Anima, get Lateralis. Those are 2 of the greatest albums ever made. And just check them out.
And take acid. The experience is not complete until you've taken acid. But don't do drugs, folks. They're bad for you.
The views expressed by the individuals here on Honey Badger Radio don't necessarily reflect us as a whole. I don't endorse drug use. Hannah?
None of us identifies as a whole. Okay. just for the record, I'm not a whole. No, I just wanted to say I don't think we have a position on drugs. We don't advocate doing illegal things, but I know you guys have all heard me talk about the drug war in terms of being a cause of poverty, a cause of overcrowding in prisons, a cause of death among police officers and civilians, and a rather stupid overall endeavor. But yeah, no, we aren't taking a position as a group, but I think individually we all have our own. We got a couple of super chats. Do you mind if I go ahead and read them, because they're particularly relevant?
Yeah, I was going to get around to it, but on you go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, the one of them, French Honey Badger specifically said, "Say it, Hannah," so I better say it. But the other one, I'm going to let you read because I suck at pronunciation. It's been over 20 years since I even took high school French, so I'm not going there. I'm not going to try. I'm going to chicken out. But the other one, the first one says, French Honey Badger gave us $5, and he said, "Say it, Hannah. California's problem is people's envy for other people's money."
True.
And I'll say that's part of it. California's problem, and this is a problem all over the United States, is people's belief that the government is anything more than a tool for unification and for facilitating things like interstate commerce. That it's suddenly now we all seem to have to think that it is the solution to every problem. That if we come across something that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be cleaned up, or that needs to be supported, or that a change needs to happen, that you have to go to the government to make it so. And therefore, you have to spend government money, which is, of course, confiscated from individual people. And only the ones who work hard enough or are smart enough to create and build wealth. So, of course, you end up in this situation. There are some big things that a government isn't necessarily a bad thing to handle, like having a military. But when you start legislating, how high you got to cut your grass, and the government's going to come in and cut it for you if you don't, and it starts to become not just a city thing, but a state thing, you end up in a situation where you are using basically a sledgehammer for every thumbtack in your house. So now California's got holes in its walls, and this is the situation. So yeah, it's envy for other people's money, but a large part of it is also the idea that the government is everybody's daddy and has to come in and fix everything anytime there's anything that needs done.
Correct. Look, California, I think most of us here can agree that we're not too big of a fan of the politics that happen there, whether it's the identity politics or the way that they manage their economy. But don't worry, whether it's sometime soon with some form of secession or sometime in the next 1,000 years when the San Andreas Fault gives way to the biggest earthquake that the world has ever known, look that up in case you haven't heard of it. It's going to happen. So in respect to this other super chat that French Honey Badger has sent, he said, cut spending. Max, je veux te faire un câlin, which in French, in case you guys don't know, means I want to give you a hug. To that, I like to say, French Honey Badger, je vais te faire mon pénis. Yeah, he can tell you what I just said in the chat.
Tu es putain, non?
Va te faire foutre, Cornel. Okay.
Tu es putain de le câlin.
The only thing I remember from high school French is je ne parle pas français.
She just said I don't speak French, even though she just did.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then of course there's from Dexter's Laboratory. Omelette du fromage.
I actually just had one of those for dinner. One quick story. I figure you guys might get a kick out of this story before we move on to the next topic. I went to France in 2009, and I went there with my family. We went into this bakery shop, and my mother tried to get creme brulee, but she didn't speak any French. And because I'm allergic to nuts, she tried to ask the woman behind the counter if there were any peanuts in their delicacies. And the French word for peanut is arachide. But when she tried to ask the woman behind the counter if their stuff was contaminated with nuts, she said, tu arachide? Basically, it sounded like she was saying, you are a shit. And the woman just sort of looked at her like she had two heads. Then my sister came running out and she's like, Christopher, Max, we need you to translate. And anyways, that's the end of the story. We have one more super chat from French Honey Badger. It says, the state is the great fiction through which everyone endeavors to live at the expense of everyone else. Frédéric Bastiat.
There's also one I think we missed from Redicus, gave us $5 and said, playing devil's advocate, Greece had no industry, and this section of the state wanting to secede is primarily rural, so crime and debts are lower. Yeah, crime and debts are lower in the crime is lower in the rural section, but California subsidizes everything, and California has a water problem, especially in dry years. And rural areas are a lot of the rural areas are farming areas, so that could be problematic. You also have the issue of a lot of this is federal land. Like a large section of California is federal land. Of course, that's more of a problem for when California was discussing seceding from the Union because they didn't like the duly elected president. But how do you secede when there's federal land? Does the federal government keep that chunk, or do you go to war over that part of the country? Because it's not yours. But in any case, that's again run by as much by the state, maybe not as much by the state as the federal government, but it's still a state expense. And once again, you're dealing with a lack of taxpayers. So yeah, I still think that there are problems with splitting the state up that have not been thought out. I mean, it's probably going to come up again and again, but I don't think it's going to work out the way they think that it's going to work out.
Yeah, and given the current political state of the country, it doesn't really make sense to further divide people down into red states and blue states. I mean, we got to start coming together and compromising over these key issues, so that way we don't all lose as a species. Separatism isn't always the correct answer for every particular issue. Mike, you wanted to say something?
Well, there's one more super chat from way back from French Honey Badger. Secession, secession, secession. I suggest to have California renamed California. And, you know, yeah, the USA's got its California, Canada's got its Quebec, the UK's got its, well, Scotland. And maybe we should all, maybe the solution to all of this is to go, all right, you could, well, just let them secede. Just let them do their thing, and knowing full well, we'll cross our fingers behind our back, because we know that full well in a few years we're going to get a phone call saying, hey, it's not going so well. Can you come back, please? I mean, it hasn't worked very well with Zimbabwe, but second time's a charm.
That's what I've always said about Quebec, man. It's like they're always talking about, yeah, go. Let's see how you guys survive on your own. You're the one province in all of Canada that receives more transfer payments from the government than anybody else. You're so fucking socialist. If it weren't for the rest of Canada, you guys would be drowning in debt. Anyways.
Well, and it's like that with California. You know, if I don't think anybody's stopping them. I don't think anybody's come out and said we are going to attack if this happens, you know, or anything like that. I think it's very much like that one teenager in the large household that keeps threatening to run away but never does. You know, one of these days you're gonna wake up and I'll be gone. And everybody's like, "Oh, okay. You know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it." Har. And they never do. You know, and that's probably what we're dealing with here too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's there's not much likelihood of it happening.
Nah, if Catalonia couldn't do it, I don't imagine California would be able to do it. Anyways,
this is why I said when that whole thing with Catalonia was going on, the government should have just monitored the situation, because it was eventually going to let the people have their say, let the people do what they think they need to do. I think that eventually it would have fizzled out when they figured out what responsibilities they were taking on.
I don't know. I guess we'll never know. Moving on to number 2, the second topic of today. This is brought to us by Andrew G. Thank you very much for this write-up. He titles it New App to Manage Consent. Actually, you know what? Because I did 2 write-ups that I want to read myself, would either of you like to read this?
Yeah, I can do. Actually, one more super chat from French Honey Badger before the topic is closed. Santa Clara County is claimed as part of New California. That's where the Silicon Valley is, with all the high-tech companies.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good, because I was just about to say they're leaving out Los Angeles, they're leaving out San Francisco. Are they going to be taking any of the the more economically productive cities along with them? So I guess Santa Clara.
Yeah, but they've chosen an area that is infested with like some of the worst and dumbest levels of progressivism out there.
Yeah.
Like that's, if I understand correctly, that's where the idea of a universal, what's it called? Universal basic wage or something like that. It's basically minimum wage for everybody, whether they work or not. Universal basic income came from, but gained popularity in the United States. And of course, people that want to talk about it, that have brought it up to me, they want to talk about it until I mention, hey, where's that money going to come from? And of course, they say the government. Where's the government going to get it?
Yeah.
And when the discussion goes into where's the government going to get the money to do this, then the whole thing falls apart. And we end up in our separate ways in the discussion, because you have 2 sets of people making that argument. One set knows that the government doesn't get a dime, that it doesn't confiscate from other people, and the other set actually believes money originates with the government. And so they basically think that wealth originates with the government, and if the government doesn't create money, there is no wealth. Don't understand anything about equity or anything like that. So
right,
that's not going to help them if they're trying to separate to get rid of the type of policies that are destroying California, but they take those guys with them, they're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like they say they want to get rid of monoparty politics if they're going to take the one area in the country where essentially all the progressively minded people have gathered. Yeah, and in respect to UBI, I'll just say this very quickly. At some point in the future, when everything's become automated, universal basic income will probably be ideal, but at the moment, it's going to be very difficult to implement. Anyways, we really have to move on. Mike, you want to read this?
Yes, I can do.
Thank you.
New app to manage consent by Andrew G. It's a scary world where a man can be accused of sexual assault with absolutely no supporting evidence or even evidence of his innocence. Men are told all they need to worry about is getting consent from a woman before and during a sexual encounter. No problem, right? A new app called Legal Fling is entering the app stores soon. With this app, two people can send a message through the app asking for consent. The app claims that a legally binding contract is created. Claims. I'm not sure. Well, you can customize your request with asking about recordings, whether both of you are STD free, whether a condom will be used, the use of explicit language, and whether or not BDSM will be involved. With the app, consent can be revoked at any time. This all sound great? Well, hang on. What if either one of the parties is intoxicated? College men hear all the time that someone who is drunk can't give consent, and legally speaking, contract can be nullified if one party is drunk. What if the woman claims that the man forced her into signing a contract? Coercion also mucks up contracts. Unfortunately, while this app may seem great to some, there are too many potential loopholes and legal ambiguities regarding this app.
Yeah, like what if the guy locks away the phone in the middle of sex and she gets uncomfortable and she can't do anything about it?
And what if
that's not a problem.
What if people get it into their heads that any of this is legally binding? Which I'm guessing
that would be the worst thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like the only real solution to this problem is reforming the law so that it doesn't create a situation that's so uneven here, and creating an understanding that there must be an expectation of communication from both people involved, or all people involved in the case of like the really, really fun sex encounters, right? All people involved have to be able to communicate. Or, what the hell are you having sex with somebody you can't communicate with anyway?
Yeah.
Duh.
That's the idea that you want to have sex with somebody. It implies that prior to that becoming a possibility, you were having decent communication with your partner, that you were getting along, that the fact that human interaction has become so artificial for some that you need to have this artificially created, definitely not legally binding contract on your phone just to make sure that your partner isn't crazy. Like you said, I don't understand how anybody actually thinks that this is actually going to work. There's just, like Andrew said, there's so many loopholes. I just mentioned one. He mentioned one. There's probably a ton of other ones. I'd love to see what you guys can come up with in the chat as we, I'm sure like Hannah and Mike have some more ideas. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head.
Well, my idea is to be a mom about this. And it's, I guess I got to go into lecture mode. And I've talked about this before. Okay. Hookup culture, which is like this whole idea of, the sexual revolution back when my parents were kids, and all of the shit that goes along with it. The idea that you can just, go fuck somebody and then walk away and it's no big deal and everything. It's always been bullshit. You make yourself vulnerable when you have sex. You make yourself vulnerable in a whole bunch of ways, not just emotionally, but not just legally either. You have the whole array of you're opening yourself up to reputational changes. You're opening yourself up to becoming a parent. And as a guy, you really have no control over that if conception has occurred already. So this is a situation that everybody talks about it as though it's guys getting something from women, but the truth is guys get the short end of the stick on this at every angle. It is better for guys to actually keep sex in the context of a trusting relationship. Even if it's a relationship that's just a very long-term friendship with benefits, it's still better than one night stands. It's still better than hookups and walking away, because you're basically hitting yourself with a hammer when you hook up with somebody that you don't care about and who doesn't care about you.
And we're not just talking about when you're into BDSM.
No, it's just, that's just the way it is. And like, I know that it's, everybody would love to believe that you could just have this fun and there's no consequences, and there's some scenario under which we could set things up so that doing that would have no worries attached to it. There's not, and it's like, if you're young now and you're in college now, or looking at college or just out of college and you're working now, the dumbest thing you can do is trust a woman who you barely know or you haven't spent a lot of time with. If you wouldn't sign a business contract with her as your business partner, it's an idiotic move to trust her in bed. That's all I got to say about it.
And given the state of universities in the West right now, the idea, I hate that I have to say this, but just the idea of engaging in that type of casual sex with any woman these days, the way that a lot of, not even just young women, but young men, the way that they're conditioned in schools nowadays to believe that they live under a brutish patriarchy, and that so many different, what does Hannibal Lecter call them? Tricky fumblings. So many tricky fumblings can be considered rape, something like attempted forced kissing, which isn't the case in a lot of circumstances, that they can consider that rape. I don't understand why you would want to engage in that whatsoever. You'd actually have to be really, really sure anytime you want to have sex with a woman. And speaking of California, I would thank God I have my girlfriend, because if I ever moved to California and I didn't have her, I would be barren. I don't know what the male equivalent of that is, but there's no way I would ever have sex with any woman in that state. Just because of the political angle and the way people can, well, especially with the culture nowadays with Me Too, and whether or not somebody actually committed sexual assault or rape, right?
I wouldn't have sex with a woman in any state. You're going to have to rape me, which doesn't rule out your chances of accusing me of rape. So game on.
So what you're saying is you want to play the rape game?
Is this another lyric from a song?
What, Mike?
I don't know the meme, the rape game, or is it another rock lyric?
Oh no, it's not a lyric. The meme basically goes, you have the picture, you want the ornery looking picture, you want to play the rape game, and then you have the innocent person going no, and the ornery looking person goes, that's the spirit.
Yes, thank you, Hannah.
It's a rape joke.
Yeah, I know that one.
It took a second. Don't worry.
Of which I have like 2 or 3 copies somewhere on my computer, various images used in them.
Yeah, Hannah sends me one of those images once every couple of days. It's getting to be a problem.
So horrible. But
yeah,
that's the spirit.
You see, I wanted to make a rape joke, but I was afraid it'd be a little bit forced.
Oh.
Oh man, thank God we started to enlist these shows.
Wise Mage Zero gives us 10 Canadian dollars and says, Cosby's back on stage. Maybe I'll buy you a drink and we can watch together. that was a few minutes ago, but I timed it in a funny place to time it, didn't I? Joey Jojo. What? Go on.
He sounds like a very wise person.
Yeah, he predicted silly place, and we got there. Joey Jojo gives us $5 and says Chappelle's show was prophetic. The cost of a real doll. is way cheaper than dealing with the courts and lawyer fees. Better just to get the damn doll. For those of you playing the Honey Badger drinking game,
The doll has been mentioned already.
Yes, Joy Jodo has mentioned sex dolls. Drink your shot.
Is that like a thing that he does? I never
every
really.
show.
Okay. I mean, thank you for listening to the show.
At least every Thursday show. I don't know if he does it every. I haven't paid attention whether he does it every Tuesday. He definitely does it every Thursday.
Yeah,
show, but,
it's
been
every
talking
Tuesday.
About the lack of accountability among women, so it's kind of appropriate.
I don't want.
He's a man with a passion. He's a man with a vision, and a focused one at that.
Yep.
Why do I get the feeling that his favorite movie's like Terminator 3 or something, where they have the female Terminator?
No, I can't blame him. At this point, this is something I've said before too. I repeat myself a lot because we talk about the same stuff a lot because it's still happening. But I understand that you got to have something, and like if you can't trust women, you can't vet women. Like you get told as a guy that you're not allowed to judge a woman's character in so many ways, which is stupid. Then what are you supposed to do? So I can understand that as a solution. It's very much like going your own way as a solution, and it's a Band-Aid over a huge gaping wound, and it's something. It's not a full-on solution. It wouldn't permanently work. It wouldn't fix things for society, but it gives you something to deal with right now.
Yeah, that's essentially my main position at MGTOW as well. It's like it's a temporary solution to a much bigger, deeper problem. But I can't blame anybody who feels like dolls or robots are the way to go. And
it's like if you got to go through a field where people are shooting at you, it's better to have a shield, even though the real solution is to stop the people shooting at you, take away their guns or their bullets or whatever. You got to go running through that field to get to them. It's stupid to say, well, you shouldn't have a shield because the problem is the guns and the bullets take them away. Have your shield.
You're always talking about the bazooka. Stop talking about the bazooka.
And finally, before we move on to topic number 3, apparently, is it the Teal Deer that left us this super chat?
I didn't see a super chat. He did leave us quite a funny message about chloroform.
Oh, it's okay. Well, yeah, Teal Deer said, remember when all you had to do to get sex was buy the goddamn chloroform? True. Hey, does this smell like chloroform to you?
And it was all easier before the war on drugs, man.
First it was chloroform, now it's consent form. I guess it's only the form changes over time.
This is a joke that everyone's been coming up with for fucking years now. Ever since no means no. Actually, people have kind of foreseen where this shit's going to go into the future, and they've foreseen it as a joke. But yeah, it's fucking happening. I think we need another. It's a bit like the Overton window, but it's a different thing because it emerges from jokes and lands in reality.
Just like so many things that happened on this show. All right, moving on to topic. So I wrote this one. This is the thing that everybody's here to want to hear our thoughts about. And this is the big topic of the week, essentially. Last Tuesday, Dr. Jordan Peterson, clinical psychologist and professor at the University of Toronto, was interviewed by Cathy Newman, a Channel 4 news presenter. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. As of this moment, this interview has garnered over 3 million views on YouTube. The interview was not so much an interview as it was two people trying to advocate for their respective ideology and its dominance. Although most people would agree, including myself, that this was due to Newman's approach and Dr. Peterson just played along. To say that Cathy Newman was criticized for her performance in this quote-unquote interview would be an understatement. Sorry, I had eggs before dinner. It's just bear with me. The Daily Mail reports that as of this moment, Mrs. Newman has been, quote, called a bitch in more than 500 postings and was the target of other obscene messages. One message included a pornographic mock-up on Instagram of Mrs. Newman with Dr. Peterson, which unfortunately was happened upon by Mrs. Newman's 13-year-old daughter. Other messages included the following phrases: Rip Cathy Newman, and Cathy Newman, we know where you live. Channel 4 news editor Ben DePere tweeted the following in response to these messages. Quote, our Channel 4 News on-screen journalists expect to be held to account for their journalism, but the level of vicious, misogynistic abuse, nastiness, and threat to Cathy Newman is an unacceptable response to a robust and engaging debate with Jordan Peterson. Such is the scale of threat we, Channel 4 News, are having to get security specialists in to carry out an analysis. I will not hesitate to get the police involved if necessary. What a terrible indictment of the times we live in. End quote. Now, despite all this seemingly terrible nonsense that Cathy Newman has been subjected to, Cathy Newman is on record as saying that she enjoyed the interview with Dr. Peterson. After the interview, she tweeted out, Viva Feminism, Viva Free Speech. As well, in a tweet that is now deleted but archived, another Channel 4 anchor, Anya Pop, tweeted a picture of Mrs. Newman laughing at an image on her tablet with the following caption, quote, entertaining ourselves with all of the angry tweeters on Cathy Newman's Twitter feed while we wait for the police to come back from a visit. So it seems like a lot of trolling and a lot less death threats, hopefully. Anyways, we here at Honey Badger Radio obviously condemn in the strongest terms the vitriol and any death threats Cathy may or may not have received in the last week. Now, and I know you haven't seen this, so we'll come to you in a second. Mike, your general thoughts on the interview and sort of the aftermath of it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm still working on my response. It would be rude not to do a codger sort of fixed version of it, and I've already worked on sort of on looking at it, what it looks like if you remove Jordan Peterson from the conversation, and what you're left with is 6 minutes of. Well, I've watched it, but I can't describe it. Like I say, it's going to take a lot of video making to say what I say about this. But yeah, I'm putting up this tweet from Ben DePere right now, and like how many people at Channel 4 News looked at that interview and didn't think to themselves, "My God, you made a tit of yourself, Cathy." I mean, how many of them are still on board with the fucking illusion that she was right to make a mockery of the profession of journalism as she did? And some people are just going, yeah, she completely fucked it up. But this, we're still fighting a war against these trolls on the internet, so we got to pretend she's right about everything. Fucking 3 million people have seen it, and they've found a few hundred people calling her a bitch. Colour me fucking shocked. 3 million
to the internet,
and that's just the people on who saw the video on the internet. Loads of people saw it on the TV as well. And if you're getting security specialists in to carry out an analysis, as you put it, I hope you're doing the scale properly. And for every, you're figuring out what people have said to Cathy and when, but are you figuring out what people have said to Jordan and when? Are Cathy Newman's fans and or enthusiasts, whatever you want to call them, what are they calling Jordan Peterson? What kind of perfectly harmless Twitter banter are they engaging in regarding Mr. Peterson and anyone who agrees with him?
I'm totally sure that he's not being called a misogynist or a sexist or, somebody that doesn't believe in gender equality. It's almost like every single time some sort of debate happens, a large-scale debate where, I don't know, let's just say that a feminist gets quote-unquote owned by somebody with a brain. And what happens is, because, like you said, Mike, 3 million people watch this, and everybody seems to be on the side of Jordan Peterson, except for people like Cathy and the people at Channel 4 News. It seems that in every single circumstance where a type of debate like this happens, all they can do is just try to round up all the death threats and all the terrible words that are directed towards the supposed victim, and then present that as, oh, well, we're not going to engage with these ideas because look at the type of people that they produce. It happens over and over again, and it's getting tiring, and hopefully it's going to stop soon. But anyways, Hannah, I know you want to jump in here, so please.
Well, I thinking about this. The idea, who was it that said it? They would not hesitate. What a terrible indictment of the times we live in. this is not a terrible indictment of the times we live in, okay? In the 60s, if you advocated the wrong political position in the southern half of the United States, a mob of people would show up at your house and drag you out in the middle of the night and take you out into a field and shoot you or hang you or burn you to death. And it was not something that people just threatened to do. It wasn't words on the internet. It was a real thing that happened to real people. People's whole families were killed. People's whole families were blacklisted from the workplaces in the area. People were run out of town. In the 1800s, it was even more prevalent. The idea that people saying nasty words to each other on the internet. Now, I'm not saying if somebody says on the internet, I am going to come to your house and do XYZ to you, whatever XYZ represents, that you should not call the police and file a report so that if somebody actually shows up at your house, you can prosecute and you can prove in the course of prosecution that they threatened to do this ahead of time. So you had perfect reason to believe they were going to do something and every right to defend yourself and all that. But I get told every other day that I should get raped so that I know what it's like. Do I take that as a threat? No, I don't give a shit. I grew up in a family that was political. And I had people drive by my family's house and throw things. I had people say things to me at work. I had, when I was a kid, I actually had somebody ride by on their bicycle and throw a water balloon full of a foul-smelling liquid that exploded upon hitting me. I was a little kid sitting on the front steps of the house, and I got covered in it. And I'm not even sure if it wasn't pee because somebody didn't like the grade they got from my dad. So the idea of having somebody say something stupid to you on the internet being the epitome of, oh, what terrible times we live in. You know what? No, it's really not. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah, it's a dumbass move to get on the internet because you're mad at something that somebody said and the opinion that they had, and say something terrible should happen to them or that you're going to do something rotten to them or whatever. But to compare that to what people went throughout human history for the crime of opposing people politically, for the crime of wrongthink, for the crime of having compassion for the wrong groups of people. Such bullshit. And you know what a terrible indictment of the times we live in this really is? It's a terrible indictment of what wimps we have become. Where we get scared because somebody said nasty words on the internet now. Like, really? No. If you take it seriously, you file a police report. If you don't feel like it's serious enough to file a police report, you let it roll off your back. That's it.
Mike?
Here's what Cathy Newman did wrong. Her job is, she's a journalist. It's her, and when interviewing a sort of prominent contemporary figure, it's her job to ask questions, to get him to tell her what he knows. That can be hardball or it can be softball, whatever you like, as long as you're being as objective with everyone else, which I doubt she is, but whatever. But it's her job to ask him questions, to say, what can you tell me, Mr. Peterson? And she made a complete mockery of that profession because she didn't ask him what he's saying. She kept telling him what he's saying. Every time he talked, she just covered it up with this fucking straw puppet of, he didn't say that, folks. This is what he's saying. This is the message you should take home rather than the thing he's actually saying. And she kept fucking doing it. And this is why she's getting so much criticism from people, not just on the internet, but on on all the other kinds of media that TV executives are okay with. And yet she, well, maybe not she, but the people who defend her are pointing at people on the internet, people in comment sections, and going, look at what poor Cathy Newman has to deal with. And like, what's the job of people on the internet in comment sections? To say whatever the hell they like. They can fucking strawman all the hell they like because they're not being paid to be journalists. They're not doing their job wrong. Cathy Newman did her job completely fucking wrong because she just said whatever the hell she liked. So then she pointed at the internet and said, well, those people are saying whatever the hell they like as well. Yeah, they're trolls on the internet, bitch. You're a journalist. You're a fucking journalist on network television. You don't get to do what fucking trolls do. And if you do, then people will have bad words to say about you. And then you point at them and say, well, you're doing what... I'm in a loop now. Someone else take over. I mean, fucking...
So what you're saying is that Cathy is a closeted gay lobster. Peterson.
Yes. Most of what you said dropped there, but we got lobster and Peterson and yeah.
Oh, for Christ's sake! My crappy internet is being crappy. Let's just everything that you said is right. This is a terrible indictment. You know what this is an indictment of? It's just an indictment of the way that journalism is handled nowadays. Like what Cathy did in one respect is correct for what a journalist is supposed to do. They're supposed to be a little bit offensive in terms of just trying to get to the bottom of things and trying to make sure that people's positions can be articulated honestly. However, what she was doing is that she wasn't doing it in pursuit of truth, which is what journalists should be doing. She was doing it in a way to sort of make her ideology seem more legitimate, which is not what people should be doing. But, it's something that we've come to expect nowadays, with mainstream media, especially with the BBC, unfortunately. That's no slight towards the UK. I love the UK. My family's from the UK. And I'd say the same about the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which in my opinion is a whole lot worse. Anyways, we apparently got a couple more super chats. Mike, would you mind reading that out?
Yes. We had one from... had one just now from Point Curation, $5 Canadian. Wish you all a nice stream. You guys are the toppest lobstars. Oh, lob stars. That's like a lobster, but it's a star lobster. I like it. I like wordplay. Brilliant. And there was one from French Honey Badger for $2 ages ago saying duct tape changing a no into
What? I don't understand.
That's
my answer to that is silence is golden, but duct tape is silver.
Oh, I get what you're saying now. Yes. I wasn't putting duck and tape together in my head. I was thinking duck and tape, as in the animal and tape. But no, duct tape is in. Yeah, that makes sense now. You're not talking about raping ducks. I think that was all in my head.
Typing on his phone and it's correcting his words, and it probably was duct tape changes.
So, Mike, what you're saying is that you have the image of ducks being raped in your head.
I'm bending double now and drinking from my water.
You guys are aware that is actually how ducks have sex, right?
What you mean to say that not everybody in the consents to sex?
Yeah, no. Actually, most duck reproduction is achieved by gang rape.
Yep, that's why they have weird corkscrew-shaped penises.
Corkscrew-shaped penises and vaginas.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes.
It's life on the water, man. What should you do with a drunken sailor? You put him in a rape culture. That's what you do.
It's duck life, man.
That's what Duck Dynasty should have been about from the beginning. What else?
But you can never call a duck a cuck.
True.
Well, I suppose all female ducks are cucks. Depending on the species. I'm sure there's some species of duck that aren't quite as rapey as the ones we're thinking of.
That's a sentence I never thought I'd hear.
So you're saying all ducks are the same. That's what you're saying. You're saying all ducks are the same and all pigs are the same. Therefore, everyone is the same and everyone should just go home and stop bothering. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that there's loons and there's Canadian geese, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Because of my sheltered ass.
One more. Oh, you did the Reticus one.
Okay, yeah, I'll do Redicus. He sends us $5. I don't know if that's Canadian or U.S. Never mind.
It's US.
That U.S. Okay, well, that interview can be described by 4 words. So you are saying.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that interview can be described by 4. Right?
Yes.
Did I cut out again?
You did a bit.
Oh,
But
for fuck's sake!
only after the word for. How many words were after for? Was it just words?
I prefer to keep it a mystery because I like to be.
You like to be what? You cut out after. Oh, you did it on purpose now. You're doing it on purpose.
No. Actually,
Jeez, oh, Pete, it's an epidemic.
Now,
no, seriously, I'm not doing it on purpose. I don't know what the hell's going on.
all right, we got that one in its entirety. Okay.
Yeah, I have to lean into my mic and speak like this. Hopefully, I'm not too loud.
Not too loud.
Okay, good. Anything else anybody wants to say on this topic before we move on to number 4?
I think we should duck out of it.
For duck's sake. Okay, number 4. I wrote this and I only titled it "Bullshit" because that's the only appropriate title I can think of for this hijab cutting story. So, on January 12th, Toronto police began investigating an alleged hate crime after an 11-year-old Muslim girl said she was attacked twice on the way to school. This man supposedly tried to cut her hijab with scissors. Before the full investigation could take place, Canadian politicians jumped on the story like a fat kid on a Smartie. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, speaking of fat kids, Ontario Premier Cathy Newman, and Toronto Mayor John Tory did more virtue signaling on this story than the entire cast of Spartacus did at the end of the movie. The following Monday, police announced that their investigation was complete and the alleged incident did not happen. And also, no charges would be laid. It is currently unknown how this lie came to be or how it escalated. All that is known is that the media so desperately wanted this to be true that they reported on it before all the facts came out. Even now that the truth is out, there are people trying to claim that this story is unusual, and we shouldn't give it much more thought. One particular person is Joanna Myers, a writer for Huffington Post. Imagine my shock. Last Thursday, she wrote an article titled, "Girl Who Lied About Hijab Attack is a Normal Kid Testing Boundaries." The following is a quote from the article. "I do not know this girl or the whole situation, so I can only speculate. I wonder if perhaps she accidentally ripped or cut her hijab. She could have lied because she was worried about getting in trouble. I wonder who she was worried about getting in trouble with." Anyways, the quote goes on. "She probably didn't think of the consequences and likely had no thought that the news of her hijab being cut would reach the ear of the Prime Minister of Canada." Well, if she didn't suspect that, she doesn't know anything about our Prime Minister. Going on. "She was just a girl who tried lying for whatever reason. Can any of us say that our children have never attempted to lie to get out of trouble? Well, for me personally, in response to Joanna Myers' argument, I would like to ask, can you name another instance when a child tested boundaries and the Prime Minister got involved? Another question, why is it that when it comes to women's rights, Canadian politicians are willing to defend a garment which only serves to demean a woman's individuality and her worth in comparison to a man? Somebody want to explain that to me?
We can get back to that in a bit, but I just remembered the blimp kid, not the blimp kid, but you know there was a news story about this couple who had this air balloon type thing, and they thought their kid was in it when it was flying across the country and shit, but it turned out it was a hoax. Or
example.
The kid was in the attic. Yeah, exactly. There's one example that I can think of in the past, like maybe 20, 30 years of maybe a kid lying and the media grabbing hold of it and making a story out of it. And it's an indictment on no one but the media, you know. They every 10 or 20 years they're willing to pick up on a story with nothing but hearsay from a child and some parents who might not be quite as honest as they appear. But now we're in a situation where the media will pick up on any story of a child lying as long as it has a certain political bent to it. It's not just sensationalism, it's politically motivated sensationalism, which is many, many times worse.
Yeah, and how true that is. Thank you for bringing up that blimp kid story. That's a blast from the past. Hannah?
Well, when this usually happens, and it usually doesn't get to the level of leader of a country, but when the media, maybe local media, maybe statewide or province-wide media gets involved in a story like this, it's usually a kid lying about somebody trying to kidnap them, and it usually is an attempt to get out of trouble for getting home late. That happened, I think it's been a couple of years now ago in the Dayton area. Um, Actually, a little girl lied about two men trying to kidnap her at the park down the road from where I live.
Mm.
And it was exactly that. It was she didn't get home when she was supposed to get home, and that was her cover story. And it didn't occur to her that, her parents would go to the cops and file a complaint, and the cops would actually start looking for two men meeting her very vague description. And so eventually she ended up in more trouble, because when the truth came out, then, it turned out she had wasted a bunch of time. Now, there was no prosecution over this because it was a little kid who did this, but and there doesn't seem to ever be when it's a kid that does it, because kids do lie. You learn the value of honesty as a kid, by getting caught in lies and learning the consequences of lying in usually the most gentle way possible, while still dumping consequences on the kid that makes lying, less of an attractive way to deal with your problems later on. But yeah, actually, Marshall Slade has a great take on this. So you're saying fake news starts young? Yeah, dishonesty is an extremely immature behavior. We'll put it that way. And the less mature a person is, the more likely they are to be dishonest. So the more dishonest a person is, obviously, the less mature you can consider them to be.
Yeah, there are some.
I
There
would
are
say
some
the same
ways.
thing with,
There are some ways in
same
which
thing with violence.
there are some ways in which children are pure and innocent, but honesty is not one of them. They learn how to
Yeah.
lie almost as soon as they've learned how to use language.
Yeah, and the smarter they are, the faster that they learn how to lie, because that way they can get what they want.
Right. And they learn to exploit the way the adults want to protect them in order to get out of dealing with things they don't want to have to deal with, like having to be home on time. So yeah, it's this story is not. The writer is not off base here in saying, this was a little girl who tried lying, and it was really the adults who should have been responsible for confirming the facts before freaking out over it. And that's, in this particular situation, what that is an indictment of the times we live in, where political correctness can lead people to jump on a story that they want to be true because it's awful, because it would make their political point.
Yeah. One other thing I want to bring up, because it sort of made my toes was a suggestion. Damn it! Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm leaning. I'm basically making out with my mic right now. How does my voice sound?
It doesn't need to be quite that close.
Okay.
I think it's your internet. It's not your noise gate.
Yeah, if you get too close, you start to get some distortion.
Okay. All right. So I'll start speaking here. Yeah. The one thing that she brought up, which is a definite possibility, and it's sort of the image that I had in my mind, but it's very disturbing. It's the fact that, okay, what if she accidentally ripped it open and she was afraid she would get in trouble? In trouble with whom? What if it was genuinely an accident? What if she was afraid of getting in trouble with her parents, especially maybe her father, because I don't know, maybe she was betraying the modesty mandate of women that live in that type of Orthodox Islam, which is really unfortunate, especially for an 11-year-old girl, somebody who probably shouldn't even be worrying about that sort of stuff at that age. What do you guys think?
I think it's a misclassification to refer to the hijab as strictly being an imposition on females. because there's some serious debate among people who wear them as to whether it's an imposition or not. Now, in some countries, yeah, it's an imposition. And in other areas, it seems to be a choice. The thing that I've noticed about it is no matter where it is worn, the underlying reason is an accusation against men, not a mandate that men put on women, but women having to wear it, or saying that they have to wear it because men might look at them. Basically treating men's stare as some sort of an attack. And assuming that men can't control themselves, or won't control themselves, or don't have to control themselves. And who raises the children and teaches the children in that culture that lesson about men? Who is the one that is at home while the other partner in the parental couple goes to work and supports the family? Who is the person at home teaching the children that women have to cover their hair because they might get men's stare cooties, or they might get raped because men are animals? Who's teaching that lesson? Is that the men in that society that are teaching that lesson? Or is it those children's mothers? So like I have all of the sympathy in the world. I really do for people living under totalitarian, authoritarian, oppressive regimes of every kind, religious or not. I have all the sympathy in the world for people that are dealing with that shit. People of both sexes. But I have no patience whatsoever with treating all of the bad things that happen to people under those regimes as if they are a bigger deal when they happen to women, or they only matter when they happen to women, or everything that involves women is oppressive only to the women and reflects only on the men in that society. Because those things are not true.
For example, Max, you go to college, right?
Yeah.
Like, why shouldn't you turn up to college wearing short shorts, like hot pants all the way up to your taint there? Why?
Who's to say that I don't?
But let's just say you don't.
Take it seriously for a minute. Why shouldn't you?
Let's just hypothesize that you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you do that?
Oh, it's because I would obviously draw attention.
Is it? You see, when you ask this to a lot of guys, the general answer is you shouldn't dress like that because no one wants to see that. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's some variation of that, because the sight of too much of your body will kind of make people go, oh, fuck's sake, dude. Now, I'm not about to call that oppression. I'm not about to say it's just the way things are and it's the way things will always be. I think things can be done to alter how that works, but I wouldn't call it oppression. It's certainly not a reflection of how much we love men or their bodies, but to repeat, I wouldn't call it oppression. Now, why should a woman... Now, if I asked a woman or a group of women, why should you not turn up to college wearing hot pants all the way up to your taint? And they wouldn't get the response, no, because no one wants to see that. The response would be no, because everyone wants to see that. Or specifically, no, because men want to see that. Mm-hmm. Now, both men and women are getting the answer no there, but they're getting it for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is anything... I mean, what's different in the Middle East, in countries where they have the hijab and shit like that? The difference is it's put into law. Yeah. Now, when you take the sentence... no, because men want to see that, and put it into law, apparently that's oppressing women. But when you take the sentence, no, because no one wants to see that, and put it into law, that's just another part of the patriarchy, apparently. Have I got my point across yet?
Oh, no, absolutely, dude. And it makes 100% sense. And it's a very it's at the same time it's convoluted, but it's also very simple. And also in respect to what Hannah said about mothers conveying this morality, look, I have no doubt that that's exactly what probably happened. What's been happening with this little girl, because if you see the interview that she had at her school with all the cameras focused on her, her mother was there and she was wearing the niqab. You can only see her eyes just shifting from beneath her veil while her daughter was talking. And all I can take from that is that she probably preaches to her a very orthodox version of Islam. Yeah, well, hopefully, fewer events like this happen in the future. That way, when actual hate crimes happen, they can be treated appropriately by our justice system. We got another super chat. We got 2 super chats. Here, I'll read these ones out.
You got 3.
I read it.
Yeah, go.
Oh, 3. Okay. Okay. Well, point curation sends us $5 Canadian. And he said, "Should we organize society around the lines of law? Yes, on Proposition 84, the lobster law." I mean, like, I don't know if you're that into lobsters, that like in the same way that Mike is into ducks, but just try to keep it.
Why not both?
Why not both? We're living in progressive times, ladies and gentlemen. Redicus sends us $2, and he says, "Just call it tequila."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone need that translated? It's lying for the sake of the cause, so to speak. There's a passage in the Hadith where some noblemen or whatever come to Muhammad and say, "What should we tell this man?" And Muhammad says, "Tell him what you will." Wait, yeah. The point of that being, it's quite okay to lie to the kuffar if it furthers the cause of Allah.
Yeah. That doesn't keep you up at night. I don't know what will. And then also, Hannah brought this to my attention. Kind Torment sends us $2. G2G got to go, but got to support those who support others. So thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen. And just to everybody who sent us in super chats so far, thank you very, very much. You have no idea how much it helps us out and how much we really appreciate it. Anyways, should we move on to the final story of the show? So there was a government shutdown, which lasted, like 72 hours. We'd like to thank Miss Stapler, for doing this write-up for us. Hannah, do you want to read this one since I've done 3 and Mike has done 1?
Certainly.
So
it starts out, I'm not sure which is the bigger story here. The U.S. government shutdown, or that CNN published an op-ed that's critical of the Democrat Party. That's a good point. The CNN opinion piece covered the least disruptive shutdown in recent times, as it only started Friday and ended yesterday, Monday afternoon. The gist of it is the Democrats did not want to compromise on immigration and DACA in negotiating a tax bill. The Democrats' pigheadedness was not lost on the CNN political commentator Alice Stewart, writing, "Democrats were so hell-bent on settling the fate of unlawful immigrants that they were willing to punish lawful residents who serve in our military, rely on children's health insurance, and rely on valuable government services." Not all Senate Democrats were for the shutdown strategy and started working with Republicans. Some started working with Republicans. It was this group that were able to end the shutdown, leaving the Democrats with little to show for it, but they say a guaranteed commitment to take up immigration legislation by February 8th, which, by the way, just from an outside perspective, that was already going to happen. So they got to guarantee that something that was already guaranteed was guaranteed. Anyway, as pointed out by the Federalists, the majority party has a genuine ability to participate in governing the nation in the United States. David Harsanyi points out the hypocrisy of the Democrats. Not only do they believe it's undemocratic for elected Republicans to vote against a Democrat president's agenda when in the minority, they believe it's undemocratic for Republicans to vote for a tax bill even after winning both houses of Congress and the presidency. And this situation was so dumb. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing in the tax bill itself that the Democrats objected to. There was nothing for them to take issue with in the tax bill itself. In fact, there were things in the tax bill that the Democrats would have normally had to demand, while the Republicans would have been, not happy with it. And like the funding of CHIP was not in question. That was something that in the past has been under debate. How to handle that essentially. And there were some other things that the Democrats would have normally had to fight to get added in there. But in any case, there was literally no reason for the filibuster. They were promised already that DACA was going to be discussed. They were promised already that this is something that we're going to. And Trump has already said he doesn't want to get rid of all the dreamers. He wants to get rid of the ones that are committing crimes, that he wants to vet, that he wants to deal with the situation as it is, not as everybody wishes it was. And that seems to be the biggest contention with the Democrats. They want to accuse the Republican Party and the president of doing something that they are not doing, rather than dealing with what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened in this situation as well. They basically said, well, if you don't promise us you're going to do this thing you already said you're going to do, we're not going to have a vote. Like,
Yeah.
2-year-old's temper tantrum. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Yeah, it's a total temper tantrum, and like you said, there's no logical reason for this to happen, political reason, and it really seems, at least to me, Hannah, just let me know if you agree with this. That the only reason why they did this is because they wanted to sort of take the attention off of how well the whole tax bill thing has been going on, and they sort of just wanted to bring the narrative back towards hating on Trump and saying, how he supposedly feels towards DACA and the Dreamers.
Now say that again.
Oh.
I don't know if it didn't come through everywhere or if it's just my internet, because my whole thing just turned red here, but I missed large segments of that.
Okay. Basically, I'm just asking, do you think that the reason why the main reason why the Democrats did this is because they just want to make sure that the narrative goes back to hating Trump, even though things are generally good right now with respect to the tax bill?
That's a really good assessment.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I've been noticing. Donald Trump could actually come out with a cure for cancer, and then Democrats would decide that cancer was a good thing. Yeah. At this point, this goes both ways. There were things that Hillary Clinton proposed that, if those were the sum total of what characterized Hillary Clinton's campaign, I would have been all for it. If it hadn't been for the vote for me because I'm a woman, and the security, the clearance issues, the email scandal, the history of Clinton corruption and all of that, if it was just, there were certain issues that she was conservative on, and certain issues that she was somewhat libertarian on, I would have been okay with Hillary. But there were a lot of people that actually came out against, that I saw come out against positions essentially that were fairly moderate for a Democrat, and actually somewhat conservative for a Democrat, because Hillary said them.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing, it goes back and forth. Bernie supporters were all for the Republican tax bill when they thought it was Bernie's tax bill. This is all stuff. Yeah, we have Shaman King XYZ. So basically, if Hillary Clinton wasn't Hillary Clinton, well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But in any case, and yeah, Hillary Clinton, and wasn't she friends with Podesta, says Joey Jojo? Quite a bit. But yeah, this tribalism is it's pretty characteristic in our politics and everything. But with the Democrat Party, it is so blatant at this point, particularly not like the layman, the part of the left that is that I refer to as the classic liberal, because they pretty much stick with what their actual positions are. But with the media, the Democrat supporting media, I should say, and the I don't know, the regressive progressive end of the party and everything, you really could come out with a cure for cancer, but if you attribute it to the Republicans, all of a sudden cancer becomes a good thing for them.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right about the tax bill. If I think I got this right. I think the reason why people on Bernie's side were sort of in agreement with that tax bill was because it lowered the taxes for pretty much everybody except for people that are in the top 1%. And that's why, like, Democrats seem to have no argument against it, because it's like, okay, that's a good. Do I have that right, Hannah?
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay. All right. Mike, before we close the show off, do you have any thoughts about U.S. politics, this particular kerfuffle?
Who was the chicken lobster porn? Says Reticus for $2. Yeah, no, I don't know shit about anything.
What? Who was the chicken lobster porn?
Yeah, that was a super chat. I thought I'd come in with that because you asked me about U.S. politics.
Oh, I know it. Yeah, the chicken lobster.
That was from a while ago, yeah. Oh, and also Gregory Hurst gave us $2 to say you missed my previous super chat. Sorry about that. His previous super chat was so what you're saying is vaginas are evil and anyone who owns one should die in a ditch. Make Cathy a diplomatic translator and watch the nukes fly.
Actually, no, what I'm saying is that Tide Pods are safe for consumption. Drink them.
Yes. Have all the Tide Pods. Have roast suckling Tide Pods for Christmas.
Faith is abdication of reason. Heard what I heard. Chicken lobster porn?
What the fuck is going on?
This sounds like porn created by a restaurateur. What do you get when you cross a chicken and a lobster?
I don't know, Hannah.
Dinner. But yeah, now I'm hungry. Damn it.
And I just had a really big dinner before. Like, I had like 4 scrambled eggs with cheese and peppers and toast. It was really good. But now I want some lobster, and I'm allergic to lobster.
Lobster's overrated, man. As Sent Hitch often said, the 4 most overrated things in this world are lobster, champagne, picnics, and anal sex. And I, for one, believe him.
So what you're saying is you like fish sticks in your mouth?
Well, he was right on 3 of those things. Right. I'm not going to say which one was wrong.
Marshall Slade sends...
I'll let you guys just imagine.
I can't do this.
What kind of picnics have you had, Hannah? Spill the beans.
Find out about that in the after show. Because that's the type of set that we talk about there. See, this is what happens when Brian goes away for 2 months. Marshall Slade sends us $5. Cowboy fans and Eagles fans' hatred of one another makes more sense than Republicans and Democrats. I don't know anything about sports, so I can't offer a concrete opinion on that. Anybody else?
Yeah, no, can't help you there. Sorry.
It's funny. Here we are talking about Republicans and Democrats, which are basically the political mafia, and you got to mention concrete.
Sure.
That's all I got to say. Who was it? Herman Cain, when he's talking about, I think, an investment that he advertises. It might be he's just advertising his show. But he describes the battle between the Republicans and Democrats in terms of America being on a sinking cruise ship, and the Republicans and the Democrats have been in Congress for basically the last 20 years, arguing about how to position the deck chairs on the main deck. And as far as I'm concerned, he's right about that. The policies that they've been enacting and have enacted for the last 50 years have been very damaging. And rather than figure out what they've done wrong and fix it, they really are just decorating their policy with more policy and so on. So, yeah, no.
Yeah, It's covering a pile of shit up with whipped cream, and they're focused on. Yeah, go ahead.
They're basically, to use a conspiratorial term, in cahoots for the most part. The incumbents are pretty much in cahoots for the most part. It's all a game to them, and they don't give a shit. And it's very refreshing to get somebody like Trump in there. Not necessarily because he's perfect, because he's still gynocentric. He's maybe not as nauseatingly, diabetically gynocentric as the butt-kissing politicians that we've had in there for the last 20 years. But he's still, everybody for the most part is. There's a few people, not necessarily in the highest of positions, that maybe are not so gynocentric. But in any case, yeah, it is at least refreshing to have someone in there that the rest of them all hate his guts because he's not part of the in crowd. Because it's been very frustrating watching these guys play ping pong with civil rights and civic responsibility and our economy and our tribalism and so on. So
yeah. It's for 50 years, U.S. politicians have been focused on micro issues rather than macro issues, sort of like the burgeoning U.S. debt was at 20 trillion right now, and all anybody can ever focus on is stuff like whether or not Donald Trump is a racist, or and it's a micro issue. What I'm about to bring up, the state of Hillary Clinton's health. I mean, it's an issue, but in comparison to all the difficult stuff that America is going to have to deal with at some point in the near future, it's very small. Anyways,
we've had presidents in worse health than Hillary. Was attributed to Hillary, which we don't actually know what her health was because she hasn't released her medical records. So all of that was speculation.
Yeah.
But if all of the speculation were true, we've still had presidents, successful presidents, that were in worse health.
Oh yeah,
we
totally.
Just didn't know it at the time.
Joey Jojo sends in $2. Goddamn 2B has a great ass.
Is he talking about pencils? I think he might be talking about robots again. Drink your shot, ladies and gentlemen.
Joey Jojo, what's 2B, please? I'm actually curious to know. I don't know if like the types of asses that you're into are like the asses that you have on the end of a pencil, or it's just seems like one cheek and it's flat. The eraser. I don't know. Zerank sends us $5. Saying our system in the U.S. is the best system.
That was, so you're saying our system in the US is the best system. Sorry, a lot of the words cut out there for you, Max. Sorry.
If we had stuck to it, it might have been.
It's like democracy is the worst system except all the other ones, and other such sayings.
As a wise UK politician once said. So that's pretty much it. Anybody else have any final words before we do all the final housekeeping?
Final words. What word can I think of? Anti-disestablishmentarianism. There's a word.
True.
Flocky knocking the hill of vilification.
Or condemning it, but yeah.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. That's the only.
Perspicacity.
Djibouti. I don't. Oh man, please, Brian, come back to us soon.
Mauve. That's a word.
I like dogs.
Mauve.
So what you're saying is that cat people shouldn't be allowed to breed. I'm just looking at these Jordan Peterson, Cathy Newman memes online. I did not say that. So what you're saying is you said that. Honestly, just type in "so what you're saying is Jordan Peterson" into the Google search engine and then hit images and you'll have a ball of a time. Anyways.
So what you're saying is Google sucks.
No, what I'm saying is that Bing is almighty.
So what you're saying is, so what I'm saying is, so what you're saying is, so what I'm saying is, what you're saying is.
What I'm saying is that Mike is an alcoholic. Let's go.
True that.
It's true. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this particular edition of HBR News. before we get into just the goodbyes and the shills, I just want to say to all you people, whether you're sitting or standing, whatever you're doing while you're listening to this show, please just pick up your phone or put your hand on your mouse, and you see that like button on whatever wherever you're listening to this on, whether it's Honey Badger Radio, Badger Livestream, Karen's channel. Just hit that like button. Just do it. It really helps us more than you think it does, because I tried to explain this on the last couple of shows. Whenever you hit certain milestones like 100, 200 likes, it tells the YouTube algorithm that our content is definitely worth watching, and it gets our videos out to more people so that we can grow our audience. Just by doing that, you don't have to send us money. I mean, we'd appreciate it if you send us money, but if you can't do that, just hitting that like button helps us more than you could possibly realize. Anyways, I'd like to thank Dr. Random Cam, Mike, for doing all the technical stuff and helping us read out the super chats and for his thoughts. And also Hannah for her delightful sense of humor and her analysis to stuff that I could possibly never talk about. And I'd like to thank all of you personally as your host just for putting up with me and my stupid jokes. And until next time, I just want to recommend, like I said, subscribe, the drill. And until the next live stream, have a lovely, lovely day.